What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, and I'm going to be talking about Road to UFC once again, and it's actually confirmed the Chinese fighters that are going to be competing in the UFC, Road to UFC in June, which I think is very exciting. And there's actually one light heavyweight fighter. If you guys don't know anything about Road to UFC, it's actually a tournament that the UFC is hosting for only Asian fighters, starting in the UFC fight week of UFC 275. Over the course of 3 months, there's going to be 8 fighters in the flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight and lightweight division, and they're going to be fighting over the course of 3 months in a tournament style fight. So you win 3 fights and then you get a UFC contract. It's going to be pretty good, man. I really do think there's a couple of pretty decent prospects that are actually in this list. I'm actually quite impressed with the level of competition that the UFC have actually put into this, because I was relatively concerned for who the UFC were going to pick, considering the fact that unfortunately the Chinese fighters didn't have too much success in Dana White's Contender Series. But I think that the UFC has done pretty good and finding some pretty decent levels of competition for this tournament. I think that a lot of these guys are UFC level. I'm going to be talking about them now, but give me 1 second here, because I'm going to mention though, there's going to be bonus fights in these fight cards. There's going to be a bonus fight where it's going to be like a Dana White's Contender Series fight, where they're not in the tournament, but if they win, they get a Dana White a contract pretty much. And as it said here, as Zhang Mingyang is competing at light heavyweight, he'll be competing in a non-tournament bout. Those non-tournament bouts are, if you win, you get a contract. It's like Dana White's Contender Series, so that's very exciting, I think. So there's going to be fighters that are not in those weight classes, maybe some female fights as well, maybe some heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, welterweight fights even, you know. But let's just look at the list here, just by name value. I'm going to mess up a lot of these guys' names, unfortunately. We've got Zibin, Lu Kai, Asikurbai, Balajin, Zhang Mingyang, Kulin, Kira Moali, Zhao Long, and Wuli Jaburin and Yi Jia. It's actually quite worth noting that a lot of these guys have fought each other, but let's just look at the list. Let's look at the records of the guys on the list, and if I think that they will find some success. So the first one, we've got Bin Ji, who's got an 8-3 record, but he most notably fought Olivia Murad and lost a split decision there on Dana White's Contender Series in 2021. But prior to that, his entire career has been spent in one championship. So his whole career, he's been fighting pretty decent levels of competition, in my opinion. Really, one championship is one of the top companies outside of the UFC, really, like Bellator, PFL, ONE FC. They're all up there. But he's going to be getting another opportunity for the UFC here, and it's going to be in Road to UFC. So good for Binji here. So Kai Lu, he's got a 7-3 record, and he hasn't fought on Dana White's Contender Series or anything like that, but he does have some pretty decent KO power. He actually recently showed that in his fight against Adam Fedorski with a KO in the first round. Prior to that, though, he does have a few more KO wins and a few TKO wins himself as well. He's fought in WLF Wars, which is a pretty big promotion for the regional scene in China. He's also got a few submission wins as well. Pretty decent finisher is Lu Kai in this one here. And if we go to Asikurbai, I feel like Asikurbai probably could be one of the favourites to win the whole thing. He's on a pretty insane win streak right now. Since he was 17-8, he has gone on a 10-fight win streak right now in JCK and WLF Wars. If you don't know what JCK is, it's also a pretty major Chinese tournament that takes place once a year, and there's going to be another JCK this year as well, which will be starting in May. But he's fought a pretty decent level of competition. I mean, there's a lot of guys that aren't super great in there, but that's because he has been fighting in JCK, which is a massive tournament in China that they do. So obviously some of the guys that he's been fighting aren't super high level, but he does have a lot of decent wins and wins over very experienced guys as well, in my opinion. So good for Asikurbai. I feel like he could be a potential favourite to win the whole thing. It's worth noting he's going to be fighting at lightweight in this tournament as well. Balajin, a 17-2 record at only the age of 30, is pretty impressive. Once again, he's been fighting in JCK, which is a pretty massive tournament, so he's actually used to the tournament styles as well. A lot of these Chinese guys will be with the JCK Night Cage series, and he's got a couple of good wins. He's got a split decision win over a guy that was 17-5. He's also beat a guy that was 9-5, but a lot of debut wins as well. So not the highest level of competition for Balajin, but he is on, once again, like a 14-fight win streak right now, which is absolutely crazy. So hopefully he can continue that momentum into the UFC, Road to UFC. Mingyang Zhang, this is the guy that will be fighting in a light heavyweight fight. He is last weighing in at 219 pounds, so he probably walks around 220 pounds, and he's going to be fighting at 205 pounds in the Road to UFC bonus fight. But it's worth noting that this guy insane KO power, a lot of wins in the first round. In fact, every single one of his wins so far seems to be in the first round, which is absolutely crazy. Most notably on a 4-fight KO streak, 51 seconds, 45 seconds, 2 minutes, 2 minutes 31. Again, not against the highest level of competition, but still, if you're finishing guys like that quickly, I feel like maybe you are a pretty decent prospect, really. I think that Mingyang Zhang could be a pretty good guy to look out for. He's on like I think an 8-fight win streak right now. And yeah, Mingyang Zhang, he's going to be fighting in a bonus fight. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he does on that bonus fight in June. Now we go to Kimura Wiley, who I think once again a very experienced competitor, once again potentially another favourite to win the whole thing. He's got a win over Yi Zhao or Jia Yi, who is also taking place in this tournament as well, when they were 17-2, which is pretty crazy. He's got a win over Willie Jabern, who was 19-7 at the time as well. He's got a lot of good wins on his record. He has lost to not the greatest level of competition in the world on the regional scene, but he has managed to garner himself a pretty decent win streak with a 26-10 record. Let's see how one of the most experienced fighters in the tournament will perform coming up to Road to UFC. Long Zhao. If you guys don't know who Long Zhao is, you probably didn't watch Dana White's Contender Series 2021, where he did lose a decision to Kristen Canoes, but since then he has bounced back very quickly. He bounced back only 2 months later to Ranj Tidan, and then bounced back 3 months after that to Shinati Shamaiti, and has gone on a 2-fight win streak since then. So he has got some sort of UFC experience. He fought in Dana White's Contender Series. He did lose to a pretty good prospect in Christian Canoes, and I think Christian Canoes was favoured to win that fight, so I guess not too much of a bad look for Long Zhao, but he is still super young. He's 24 years old. It'll be very interesting to see if the Dana White will get him into the UFC if he wins this tournament here. Willie Jabern, another very experienced fighter, but he did, once again, as I said, he did lose to Kieran Wiley, who is also on the tournament as well, but since then he has gone one win over a guy with a losing record in 30 seconds by KO. Pretty crazy, man. We'll see how Willie Jabern goes. Maybe he will even fight Kieran Wiley again, which would be pretty crazy, I think, considering their first fight went to decision. He does also have UFC experience as well. I didn't actually realize that. I completely missed that. Willie Jabern has actually been in the UFC before, which is very exciting. He did lose to Rolando Day in his debut. Then he lost to Chito Vera and then Jonathan Martinez. Since then, he has been fighting WLF wars in the Chinese regional scene. Crazy. He's also got a win over Zhu Rong, which is pretty crazy as well. He's in the UFC right now. I did not realize that Willie Jabern's already been in the UFC. That's pretty insane. Yi Zha is the guy who I was talking about, who most recently lost to Kieran Wiley. Since then, though, he has bounced back with a win over Jing Tao Li. So he has got a win on his record most recently. He's on a little bit of a win streak, I guess you could say, 1-fight win streak. But before that, though, he had a very impressive record, and still does, of 18-3, which is pretty insane. It's going to be very interesting to see if that 18-3 record will be tested in this Road to UFC tournament. I think that the level of competition that the UFC has found for this Chinese tournament is actually pretty good. I genuinely thought that we were going to see potentially not the highest level of competition. I know that's pretty disrespectful, but it's because a lot of these Chinese fighters, a lot of these Asian fighters are already signed to ONE FC, the really good ones, or they want to fight in the JCK tournament, because the JCK tournament you can be in to win $1 million if you win that whole tournament. So I'm very happy with the level of competition that we've seen, and I do believe a lot of these guys, if they did win the tournament, will have a lot of success in the UFC. In fact, we've already got a guy with the UFC experience, which is pretty crazy. And I do think that this is some of China's best fighters on the regional scene competing to get into the UFC. So I'm very excited to see what's going on. If you want more of these videos, definitely leave a comment below, and I'll make more. I'll make more updates for Road to UFC.